Listen up, parents. Higher education is getting a failing grade. An alarming new report from the University of California, San Diego finds that freshman students have remedial math skills, and they can't write either. Joining me to unpack what's behind this disturbing decline in education is senior fellow at the American Culture Project and author of The Parent Revolution, Corey DeAngelis. Also here is the president of the James Martin Center for Education Renewal, Dr. Jenna Robinson. So the university's Senate Administration Work Group on Admissions finding some pretty staggering numbers when it comes to math proficiency. I mean, according to the report, 921 first-year students were placed in the school's remedial math course. That's up from 2020, where there was only 32. Look at that. It's incredible. The school says that the course contains math taught in middle school and high school. Corey, I mean, this begs the question, what the hell is going on in our high schools? Why are so many college students completely ill-prepared for math?
This is a skyrocketing number of kids who are placed in elementary and middle school remedial math courses. And I think it's part of the problem is that the teachers unions lobbied to keep the schools closed. They begged the CDC to rewrite their reopening guidance for schools during the COVID era, and that caused massive learning loss in the past half decade or so. And what did the teachers union do in Los Angeles? Their president, Cicely Myrick-Cruz, said, to avoid all sort of accountability whatsoever and responsibility, she said that there's no such thing as learning loss. The Chicago Teachers Union boss, Stacey Davis Gates, she called reopening schools racist. And she has also tried to deflect as well by saying that that standardized testing itself is rooted in white supremacy. I mean, it's so obvious what they're doing. They're trying to just point the finger everywhere else, but the unions are responsible at lowering the bar across the board. And they also push for grade inflation as well, because when everybody gets a trophy, it makes it look like they did a good job.
Yeah, it's the biggest curve in the world. C's are now A's. But by the way, it's not just math where there's a struggle. I mean, the report also said that 18% of incoming students didn't meet entry-level writing requirements last year, and they were placed in the university's analytical writing program. That's also up 13% from 2020. The report attributed these declining numbers to the elimination of standardized testing and, yes, the pandemic, which is the excuse for everything. But Jenna, how much on this can we really blame on COVID?
I think we all know that COVID learning loss was real, but there was a lot of money dedicated to address that problem. There was money available for tutors to go to the spots where students needed remediation and take care of those problems over the last 5.5 years. We've had plenty of time to address COVID learning loss. I think we can blame lowering standards, grade inflation, and as Corey said, this idea that everybody gets a trophy that's the real reason that we have declining standards.
Yeah, so Corey, Jenna just mentioned, money, right? So the University of California system, they got like $1 billion in pandemic money from the federal government's Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. Where'd the money go? What was it used for?
Yeah, it went towards their political pet projects and hiring more people like they wanted all along. They got $190 billion in so-called COVID relief at the K through 12 level since March of 2020. And for what? The outcomes have gotten worse. We've seen decades of learning loss. And at the K through 12 level, we spend now about $20,000 per student per year. That's about 30% higher than average private school tuition. And in places like California, where they don't have school choice, there's no accountability for where that money goes. So when they waste it year after year and it doesn't go to the classroom, it goes to people like Randy Weingarten, who, by the way, just the other day was picketing at the front lines with the baristas at Starbucks. I mean, she couldn't even figure out how to fix the school system. Now she's going and protesting with the coffee workers. I mean, it makes no sense. They have their priorities all out of whack, but they're not an education organization. They're a political arm of the Democrat Party. And I think that's why our outcomes have gotten so bad. They're focused more on political, you look at the NEA. I mean, the NEA passed resolutions this year to call President Trump a fascist, when a few years ago they voted down a resolution to realign themselves to be about education.
Yeah, no, the education cartel, the education unions, has been a steady decline in our education system. They're absolutely the cause. It ain't money, which is what they always scream. And then you got the elimination of standardized testing, right? That leaves universities to rely heavily on grades for admissions, which UC San Diego's report says have become inflated because they're just pushing them along. Jenna, you live in North Carolina, where high school students with averages below 2.8 are required to pass standardized tests if they're going to move on, or they'll get left back. Why aren't more school districts around the nation implementing this?
I think it's politically unpopular. People don't want to have objective standards. They want to believe that the high schools are doing their jobs. They want to continue inflating grades, and they don't want merit to be the number one factor in college admissions. They want to continue giving everyone a trophy, letting everyone in, because they believe that, everyone must go to college to succeed. And so they want the barriers to entering college to be as low as possible, which necessarily means grade inflation, dumbing down of the content, putting students in remedial courses. I think it's essential to bring back standardized testing if we want to have meritocracy and objective measurements of who can actually do academic work.
Dr. Jenna Robinson, Corey DeAngelis, always good to have you. Thanks.
Thank you.